It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, May 9th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high-quality content that's looking around the metro to see if the grass is greener over there.
I mean, at least the places have grass. We'll start there.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade, and I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, there's a lot of random stuff going on around. I think we should start with the head coaching search because another name was taken off the table. And it seems, as of recording, it hasn't been made officially official, but everybody's saying it. So we assume that by the time you're hearing this, the Ducks will have officially announced Joel Quenneville as their new head coach. And I don't like it. I don't like it for hockey in general. I think that he has taken himself out of the running and what is appropriate for who gets to be an NHL head coach. It's a privilege. It's not a right. And he could do all of the work in the world to better himself after what he did that was incredibly harmful to people under his care. And there could be another role for him in hockey. There could be another role for him, maybe helping the hockey world improve the way he has supposedly improved. But, what's your take on it?
I mean, I'll just wait and see what happens. I was told more than a year ago that he had done the work. And so I know, but at least that. I mean, and then beyond that, I don't know. I mean, it can't be worse than when Mike Babcock got his next job with Columbus. Look how that went. I don't think it'll be like that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I firmly believe that even if you do the work, that's the bare minimum, and it doesn't guarantee you or earn you the right to a position like this. It's a very prestigious role. There's only 32 of these jobs that exist in the NHL, and there are plenty of other qualified people out there who could do the job for the Ducks that aren't him, that hasn't failed the sport and failed the people that played for him. And I think that, again, other jobs out there and maybe a job created so that these things don't happen again. Maybe that's something he could do to help the redemption arc. And I just don't think even if supposedly he quote unquote earned it, doesn't mean he deserves it. Doesn't mean the Ducks needed to hire him. And I'm sorry to Ducks fans for that. I would never play the "at least it isn't the Flyers" game with this. It's too serious a situation, I think, to go there. So at any rate, he's off the table, but there may be more clues for the Flyers out there. And there's some rumblings about potentially Jay Woodcroft.
I mean, the rumblings are coming from me. There's just rumblings online that something's happening with the Flyers because they've kept this very quiet, as far as the coaching search. Names have not been out there. They've really buttoned it up. Just because I saw that Jay Woodcroft was a finalist in Anaheim made me think, yeah, I bet you the Flyers are high on him. And I'm pretty sure Patrick Sharp worked under his brother Bob, I think it is. And so, you start thinking about that. You realize that when he got fired, it was kind of weird. Connor McDavid came to his aid, even though he still was fired, but he had a winning record. He does teach. You start looking at all that stuff, and I feel like, I think there's a good chance. I don't, that's just a guess.
Yeah, I think, it's an interesting option because I think the circumstances of him leaving Edmonton were a little abrupt. I think that again, he was fired after a terrible start to a season. And we've seen the
Mhm.
Flyers do that before with Lavi, right?
Yep. Yep.
So it's a thing that does happen in the NHL, but I think, I don't know, with him and with those players, it just seemed a little bit more of a like jump in the gun situation than it was for the Lavi firing. Because I feel like Lavi, at least you felt like maybe he'd worn out his welcome a little bit more.
Yeah.
But with Woodcroft, I don't know. Like, I think obviously they did better after he left, but not entirely. And it took them, until last year to get to the Stanley Cup final.
hmm
So I don't know that it was entirely Woodcroft's fault.
No, I don't think it was. And Todd, it's not that Todd is his brother. Yeah, I think it's a situation where I do remember that, he was a teacher. I do remember him stressing defense,
Mhm.
which was a thing when he was a coach there because their defense was so loose before he got there. Still a little loose, but that's just the Edmonton Oilers, I think. But I do feel like, those kinds of things align with what the Flyers are kind of looking for as an organization. Uh, he is a guy that has coaching experience and has coached some of the best. And so, yeah, wouldn't shock me. That's all. I'm just saying, I've just been looking at all these things and saying,
Mhm.
maybe.
I feel like you're like that "It's Always Sunny" meme with the string on the
Yeah,
board and the
right.
Post-it notes. That is
Yeah,
what you are doing with this.
that's all, exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see if anything like that comes to fruition or they hire somebody else, but we will be on the ready to talk about it
We
if
will.
and when it happens, even if it's over the weekend, even though we don't regularly have shows on Saturday and Sunday, we will
Yeah,
absolutely hop
we'll
on
do something.
if we need to. If it happens, then they want to do like a Friday news dump or something because that happens in
It
sports
does.
news
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure. I think the other little bit of news that we have not had a chance to talk about because we've been focused on the draft lottery and looking at that 6th overall pick, which we did a deep dive on the strategy behind it yesterday. So if you haven't listened, go back and do that. It's really good information. But the Wells Fargo Center will now be the Xfinity Mobile Arena come this September with the name change. We knew the Wells Fargo name was going away, and it was pretty much a given that it was going to be a Comcast related name because this is sort of a temporary building until this new one is. And so
Right.
Comcast, who owns the building, like, why would they brand it anything other than one of their brands? And so Xfinity Mobile is it. And I think it's interesting going from a center to an arena. That's a little bit of a shift in terms of the framework of the name. And
Yeah.
also with Xfinity Live right there, it's a little confusing when you say where you're going to
Oh,
meet. But
it's
yeah.
going to be confusing for sure. The only thing brought up from this was back in the day, and this is probably 20 some odd years ago. I was a Comcast mobile, uh,
Uh-huh.
customer, and I probably was for 2 or 3 years, and then it went away. And so, like, I feel like this is the same thing. Like in 2 or 3 years, who knows, right? So, yeah, I'm treating it the same way.
I mean, I think that's fair. Yeah, I just think the confusion is going to be there a little bit with both named Xfinity. What are we going to call it for
I'll
short?
meet
I've
you at
seen,
Xfinity. Uh-oh.
yeah, yeah.
I could
The
see it.
shortened version of the name, I think some people have suggested the X or the Xbox, which is its own thing.
I
But
just don't use the arena names. I just don't do it. I stay away from it. I don't write about it. I usually don't broadcast it unless I'm doing a
we
live
have to
broadcast.
name the building
No, no.
sometimes.
No, you don't. No, absolutely not. You could avoid it 100% of the time if you want. The only time you can't avoid it is if, like, let's say I'm doing a live draft broadcast and I'm at the Fox Theater, right? Like in whatever the theater is in LA, you have to mention that. But
Yeah.
otherwise, I don't have to mention it, and I won't.
Well, we do when you're outside it in your
Yeah,
car
y-
post game, and we
sure.
say where you are.
Yes, for that you do. So
Yeah.
you could say it, I won't, and then I'm sticking to my terms.
Okay.
If I'm not
That
getting
is
paid, I'm
fair,
not
I guess.
mentioning it. That's
All
it.
right. There is also a little bit of maybe news about Noah Cates, who is one of the RFAs that the Flyers have to sign this season. It's still too early for qualifying offers and all of that, but like, what's going on there?
I just saw a headline from, Anthony DeMarco and Daily Faceoff that, sources say that he's leaning towards arbitration. That's interesting. That could be posturing, though. So, we just want to mention it. But Cates is definitely due a raise. And if the Flyers are sort of balking at what that raise might be, arbitration is going to give it to him. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Flyers, like, I think, we said that he should be the highest paid of the RFAs by
right.
far.
Yes.
So I think, yeah, it would behoove the Flyers to just give him what he wants, to be honest. Also, a reminder that tonight is Phantoms versus Hershey, Game 4, where the Phantoms have the opportunity to close out this second round series in the AHL Calder Cup playoffs. Hopefully, they do that. And we don't know yet
Fingers
about
crossed.
Parker Gahagan,
No.
what his status is, and
I
if
just
it'll
don't
be
feel
Cal
like
Peterson in net.
I haven't heard anything, so I'd be
Yeah,
surprised if he plays in this one. They're
I
up in the
know.
series,
Same.
right? So I just
Yeah.
feel like, yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, so Sunday is game 5 if necessary, but we'll be back to talk about that on Monday for sure. But good luck to the Phantoms tonight.
Yeah.
All right. The Metro Division provides a lot of fodder, especially this offseason, a lot of drama, a lot of turmoil. So, is the grass greener for some other Metro teams versus the Flyers? And what are the big to dos for the other teams? And how does it relate to what the Flyers need to do? We're going to get into all of that coming up next. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. There's no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you are ready to play. You can dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from all your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. If you've ever wanted to try out Xbox games without the big upfront investment in a console, Fire TV Stick 4K can be a low pressure way to get going. Head to amazon.com/Fire TV locked on to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. It's available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K second gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second gen, and Fire TV Cube third gen.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. When you have a new project that requires just the right hire to pull it off, the pressure's on, and every day without the right person's a setback. That's exactly when Indeed's sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Flyers. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need.
All right. On Monday's show, like I said, we'll check in with how the Phantoms have fared over the weekend. Plus, we'll have our nemesis of the week and start giving our off-season Monday poll questions that will allow you to answer over the course of the week. And we'll talk about it on next Friday's show. So that'll be a ton of fun. The Metro Division is in a lot of upheaval this offseason, Russ. And I think, where we start off is coaching changes. So everybody except for Columbus, who did not make the playoffs, is likely getting a new coach. Now, we don't know about the Islanders yet because they don't have a new GM yet, which is, again, part of this turmoil that is
Right.
happening in the division. So TBD on a new coach, but maybe not. We'll see. But at any rate, the Rangers took Sullivan from the Pens, who still have that open job. The Flyers open job is still there. And it's just Dean Evason in Columbus that's sticking around. So good for him.
Yeah, it's a weird landscape. Even the Mike Sullivan press conference got little fanfare today. It seemed to be pretty small. So, yeah, I don't know what to say. I think Patrick Waugh is coming back on the island. I'm just guessing because I just don't feel like there's a good reason to try and go out and find somebody now when all these other teams are looking for coaches. And I think he did as good a job as he could do. So I think he'll be back. But then after that, it's open.
Yeah, I think that's part of what makes it interesting. You look at the division, and of the teams that didn't make the playoffs, like the Flyers don't really have it as bad as some people might suggest when you look at the biggest needs for some of these other teams. And we talked about the Rangers a little bit. That is a whole mess. You look at the expectations versus the reality of what happened with them this season. I mean, would you rather be in the Flyers' shoes who are in a deliberate rebuild that took a step back that the GM told you would happen at the beginning of the season versus a team with high expectations and high-end talent that just melted into the ice?
So right now, I would take the Flyers, but it's not because of all the reasons you said, because the Rangers still have more talented players, a lot more of them. But
Right.
I also don't have a lot of faith in the Rangers GM making the right trades and making the right
Yeah.
moves. So even with a good coach and more good players, I still think there's problems there. So I would tend to agree with what you said based on that. Like if they had a
Yeah.
different GM, I might be singing a different tune, but they don't. So that's where I fall.
Well, and the current GM has created a situation where they don't have a ton of cap space to make moves to improve where
Correct.
they need to, right? And they have no first rounder this year.
Right.
So,
Well, they
like,
do or they don't. I don't think they've said yet. The 12th overall pick could be theirs, or they wait until next year and draft next year. So it's like they haven't suggested what's happening with that yet.
yeah, I guess. Yeah, I just was assuming they would pick next year
Right.
because the
We're
draft is
assuming that,
better.
but you know what? The
But
only thing is, as draft people, you lose a year of development with that. Even if you think the next year's draft is better, you're still pushing back development. So sometimes the
yeah,
team will
I
take
get
the
that.
pick. Yeah.
Yeah, but like their power play is atrocious.
Mhm.
Like we complain about the Flyers power play. Well, the Rangers power play is real bad too.
Yep.
So I think they're a little bit in the same boat there.
Mhm.
I just don't think that, I don't necessarily think the Flyers could get better than the Rangers next year
No,
quite
I
yet,
don't think so.
but I think that the Flyers trend direction could be better than the Rangers
Yeah, I
overall.
think their long-term direction is definitely better. I just don't think they'll be better next year. No.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's okay. Columbus, I think they're gonna obviously aim for the playoffs next season. I
Yeah,
think
they
the
got
big
close.
issues, yeah, and the issue is they have to stay healthy. Now, the other big issue for them, and this is an issue that affects multiple teams in the division, and that's goaltending.
Yeah.
Because Columbus has a goaltending problem similar to the Flyers. They could be in competition for a free agent goalie, and that might be a slightly better situation for a guy to go into, but they could also stick with what they have, similar to the Flyers, right?
Well, I mean, as a New York Jets fan, I like their goalie, Jack Reeves. But he was really good at the end of the year. Like I think he has earned enough to maybe be the starter to start the season, even though Merzlikins has the contract, right? But Jack Reeves gave them a boost when they needed it badly. And so we're just going to find out what he is. So I think there's some, there may be something there, but I don't know yet.
Yeah, I just think, with Jack Graves, I think I agree with you, but also we kind of saw that with Sam Ersson. And like
Yeah, I guess we did see a little of that. Yeah, I just never want to equate that with that because they're two different guys. Like I don't know Jack Reeves well enough to even say I know Sam Ersson really well, right? So yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you this
he's
though.
just a young goaltender that could go
Yeah,
either way. That's all
right.
I'm saying.
As far as goalie names, Jet and Elvis, like they've got the best goalie names in the division by far.
Probably. Now, the New York Islanders obviously were still salty because they got that first overall pick. I think this is going to be a reset year for them. Like we said, they still don't have a GM, so we'll see who that is. But I think that the first overall isn't necessarily going to help them immediately. It'll take
I don't think it will or it should.
yeah, it take a year or two before that player might have an impact. I think they'll make actual moves with a new GM, so that's something for them, but they have a lot of RFAs to sign, so they may not have as much room for free agents as they think they would up front. But they're one of the other teams that also has atrocious special teams, right? So their power play was one of the 2 teams worse than the Flyers in the NHL this season.
Yeah, I think their penalty kill is always pretty good, though. So they have that. They
Second
have
worst in the NHL.
second worst is surprising, but it's usually pretty
Yeah.
good. I think they can fix that. They lost Matt Barzal from a lot of the
Yeah,
season.
I know.
That hurt their power play. I mean, that you got to,
Yeah.
Noah Dobson's 70 points had a lot to do with Matt Barzal being on that power play. When you don't have Matt Barzal on the power play, your power play points drop precipitously, right? So I think that's a part of it. I think even though I agree that they're sort of retooling, if Patrick was the coach, he won't have that. Like, he will never use
Right.
the word. He won't have that. He's just going to go full steam forward with what he's got. But the one thing they have is an elite goalie in Ilya Sorokin, and really an elite backup if Varlamov is back, which I think he has one more year in his deal, but I'm not positive. So, but they're buddies, right? So he's probably back anyhow. So, I mean, they have that. So that always kind of keeps you in the conversation. So, they'll be better than the Flyers next year, probably just because of Sorokin. Maybe not a lot better, but it all depends. If Barzal's back full bore.
Yeah, but which version of Sorokin is it going to be?
Yeah, it'll be a better version. I think their defense was awful in front of him for half a season last year, and it affected him. I think he did button it up towards the end, and it sort of like made things interesting until it wasn't. So I think they'll be better than the Flyers, but I think it all depends on Barzal's health, which I think will be fine. I don't think the first pick will affect them at all. But if they took James Higgins, he's only going to college for one more year, so they would get him at the end of the college season, whenever that would be. But still, like you said, impact? No, not until the year after or 2 years after. That's just fair on anybody. So yeah, they're in a weird spot. They should do a retool, but I don't think they'll admit to that or do that. And I don't think they could tell their fan base that either, because they have attendance problems.
There is that too. So again, like, things are not all idyllic in the island, even with winning the lottery.
That's why Lou Lamoriello's gone. Like, there's a reason.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we'll see who the new GM is and if they shake things up at all. In the meantime, we've got the Pittsburgh Penguins and the playoff teams to talk about. The Pens, of course, have their own drama, but also what can we learn from the playoff teams, and what can we see as projecting into the future as far as how the Flyers could stack up. We'll talk about that coming up next.
The NHL playoffs are in full swing, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and you place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to steals to assists in the NBA or goals and assists in the NHL, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after puck drop, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Maybe start betting on the New York Knicks. Who knows? Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
All right. So the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now,
I'm sorry. I do have to chuckle. I do.
Listen, Crosby's future is being called into question at the moment because
it's definitely in question.
Sullivan's gone.
Right.
And I think that was one of there are like 2 threads holding Crosby together with Pittsburgh. Sullivan was one of them. That is for sure. The other one is probably a combination of him wanting to have a stable life and Evgeny Malkin. And that's it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I was asked point blank on Sirius the other day, because I was talking about a week before, or maybe even last week, about Crosby probably having input into the coaching, which I'm sure they've at least had a conversation. And I was asked, do you think Sidney Crosby will complete his career in Pittsburgh? And I said, no, I don't think he will. I think he's going to go to Colorado. I think he's going to get there some way, somehow. And I think Pittsburgh is going to do the right thing with him if he wants to go. Will he want to go? Maybe. Because, I mean, it's one of these things where it's like, yes, you always want to be a player for life somewhere if you can be. But if Sidney Crosby goes to Colorado, win a cup or doesn't win a cup, it's not going to hurt his reputation in Pittsburgh. So,
No, I mean, if Brad Marchand can go to Florida, Sidney
right.
Crosby can go to Colorado. Like, honestly.
And still torment the Leafs, go to Florida and still torment the Leafs. Like, that's good.
Yeah, although, I don't know, Leafs are pretty happy, I guess.
I know, right now they are. But Marchand did score, so we give him that.
Yeah. At any rate, they also need goaltending, which has been atrocious, which is, I think, honestly worse. I know the Flyers have the worst percentage, but in terms of the situation, I think the Pens have it a little bit worse than the Flyers do.
I agree.
They have no depth scoring whatsoever. It's like they have a lot of work to do. Now, can Dubas do it? Maybe, but unproven, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think the shine is off of Kyle Dubas a bit, and getting Rucker McGroarty is fine. Although I like the other player better, but McGroarty's a good player. But I don't know if he's going to have like even a Matthew Nyes kind of impact. I know that's probably what they're thinking, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I think he's good, and I think he'll play in the NHL. So there'll be a little infusion of young talent, but just not enough. Even this year, they didn't get a high enough pick. Like this year, you want to talk about Flyers fans are mad. I'm sure Penguins fans are madder.
It's it is brutal on the other side of Pennsylvania. So again, I think like with the non-playoff teams, I don't know that the grass is any greener.
No, it's not.
Else.
Actually, the Flyers are in a better situation than Pittsburgh. I think that's easy to see.
Yeah, for sure. I think Columbus is maybe the only one that I would say
Columbus has a bright future because their guys are a couple years ahead of the Flyers, and they have some real high-end talent. And so I think that, yes, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Now with the Devils, obviously they made the playoffs. They were in the, top 3 in the division, but they were just a broken mess by the time they got there.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can't say that what happened with them in the playoffs is indicative of who they are, but also like they did not have any resiliency to overcome it to any degree, in my opinion. And I think that's something they need to work on, is figure out plan Bs for some of these kinds of situations.
I mean, I think there's I think some of that is right. And I think they did play tougher than I think some people expected. And I give Sheldon Keefe credit for that because they were undermanned.
Oh yeah.
I think if like the Flyers lost Michkov, them losing Jack Hughes, it would have the same impact, even though the Flyers are much lower in the standings. But like you lose a player like that, and it's like, and and they did their best. Like Nico Hischier did step up. Like he's really turned into a tremendous player, and so. But yes, they do have problems. They did fix their goalie problem. Markstrom is a terrific goalie. There's no question about that. But again, there's other issues there where on defense, like it's just not right. They have Nemec. He's close, but he's not there. He's there. He's playing, but he's not right. Luke Hughes is good, but he's, he had gotten hurt. Hamilton came back late. He's been getting hurt. So they have a lot of talent, but they're kind of like in that middle stage. They're still in a better spot than the Flyers. There's no question about that. But I don't know in 3 years where they're going to be.
Yeah, I just don't think they're consistent enough for me to have confidence in it. Because, even the games we saw against the Flyers this season, like they didn't look great in a lot of them. And injuries or no injuries, I just feel like there wasn't like a full structure there that was able to combat a team even like the Flyers on a regular basis. And I think they have it in them to be more consistent, but they just haven't shown it yet, is my take on the Devils.
I feel like if they're healthy next year, they're still a playoff team. I do feel that way.
Yeah, I think so.
Again, in 3 years, like, they've been making good picks, but a lot of them are there now. And so like, we're going to see, like, that's going to be the test for them. And we're going to see, here's the other thing, Rachel, and you're not going to want to hear this, but if they get all 3 Hughes brothers, which I think is a very good possibility, if Quinn Hughes were to get over there and be in Northern Jersey, that would make their future a lot better.
Yeah, don't like that. Don't like that. I would like to enjoy my fandom of Quinn Hughes in peace without them being all together.
I know.
At any rate, Carolina and Washington, of course, are playing each other in a series right now.
Sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
It's
a brutal series to watch.
Yeah, we've only seen game 1 as of recording thus far, and it's already tiresome. But it does bring up the conversation for these two teams of building a team for regular season success versus postseason success. And kind of a slightly different version of the Caps obviously won the cup, but this Carolina team like has been a team that's pushed and just never got up to the top of the mountain. And this Caps team is looking like maybe are they running out of gas here against the kind of game that Carolina has put together, right?
Yeah, I think the matchup is bad for the Caps, even though I did pick the Caps because I still think they're much better than they used to be, and we
Yeah.
talked about all the changes, but you're right. The way they play, the difference in styles could be kryptonite for the Capitals, but I still wonder on the Carolina end, do they have rant and regret, especially after that natural hat trick in the third period the other night? Like, come on, man. Like why didn't they offer him the right amount of money? Are you kidding me? If you're a Carolina fan, you got to be mad as hell because
Well,
you do.
yes
No,
and
I'm
no.
sorry. You have to offer him the most money out there other than Connor McDavid, whatever. You got to overpay because you live in a little part of the world there that it's not a destination, but that guy could flat out play. And he's been the best guy in the playoffs, and you don't have him. And you gave up
Yeah,
assets for him.
you did. But what I will say is that this is a situation where I think both of these teams, that move aside, are still in pretty solid
No,
positions
they are.
moving forward.
No question.
I think that Carolina got a lot in return. And, they have 2 first-round draft picks next year as a result, which is
Yeah,
very good for them.
it
And
is.
I think Washington has made incredible picks over the last
Oh,
couple
no,
of
they
years.
have. I mean, we've gone
I
through the
mean,
list. It's been tremendous.
yeah,
And they have more coming. Like that, it's
yeah,
not over. It's not like Washington has no, they got more coming. And yeah, Carolina's, drafted well too. Jackson Blake looks really good. Like he went from college to the NHL, and that's a nice thing to
yeah.
do.
So I
So
think
they're in
these are
good
the 2
shape.
teams to me that are like the biggest competition for the Flyers as they try to progress in
Yeah.
this rebuild. And, I think
They're ahead of them.
they're
They're ahead of the
they're
Flyers.
way
Both of them.
ahead, and I don't see either one of them, like, making a nosedive anytime soon.
No, I mean, one guy in Washington who I know very well, Ross Mahoney, has done a tremendous job as the ASGM there. And so, like, that's on the amateur side, they're set. And Carolina, while I killed them for the Rantanen thing, they're still a very good organization and produce players and have a lot of players and have players coming like Scott Morrow. So
Yeah.
they're in good shape for at least the next 2-3 years. Both of them. Like 2 years ago, Washington limped in, but you know what? They've remade their organization and they've always had prospects coming. So yes, these are 2 teams that you have to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back Monday with a Phantoms update and our nemesis of the week. And as a reminder, we always want to hear from you. You can let us know your mailbag questions, your Flyers thoughts, your draft questions via any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. It's every game, every night, until that Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale with NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.